Hi, this is Beezy, and I've already got someone hanging out on the porch. When I came up to the porch, it is March 22nd, 2022, so a very powerful, cool 2/2/222 day. Hi, Barbara. How you doing?
Hi, I can't see you.
Hmm.
I still have that window that's on my screen.
Well, you
I don't know how
could
to,
you could log out and come back in.
um, uh, I don't have a screen to, well,
If you
this
hit
is
your
weird.
escape key on your computer, and
Um,
maybe the window just got too big.
no, well, okay. I'll try escape. Nope,
You're on a Mac,
that
so I
doesn't,
don't speak Mac.
yeah, shoot.
Well, do you have a way to? I don't want to throw you out because I don't want it to permanently throw you out. So
Okay, it just popped. I have no idea why this is here. I'm,
we'll close the browser window and come back in the browser window. That'll kick you out.
uh, okay.
I figure that's easier than if you don't know how to turn the internet off.
Okay, so now
Well, you'll
you can
disappear.
see me.
If you
You,
close your browser, it should disconnect you from the.
well, I did. I clicked off. Shoot.
Well, can you see me?
No.
Okay, but
Now
I can
the
see
Zoom
you and
thing
hear you. So yeah, you're gonna
the
have
Zoom
what?
the Zoom thing went away. Um, oh, this is very bizarre.
Well, you saw me at first when
Okay,
I
wait a
was
minute. Wait a minute.
on,
Hang
right?
on. Okay, here you are. Okay, can you see me now?
I've always been able to see you, babe.
Well, I ended up with Google Mail up at the time. I mean, I don't know. It covered up my screen. Oh my God, and I still don't know what I'm doing.
You've always been
Anyway,
hanging right out here on the porch with me.
yeah, well, I guess I bilocated.
I had thoughts of maybe because it's warmer today and it's not raining, and I had thoughts of maybe setting up out on the porch, because there won't be many more times to do that. There'll be this time and the next Thursday, the one that in April when it's a Thursday month, the one. This is interesting. I'm playing with this. The one that's in a month from now. So the next for April, the Tuesday night in the evening one is on
Yeah.
the 26th. It's the day where I know the vehicle and the gate I'm going through. So I'm not sure if I move that or if I keep it, and because I've already have a plan where I'm going. So
Oh,
that's
you
interesting.
do?
I know. I said in case, I'm thinking.
Oh,
Well, by
oh, oh,
soon,
oh,
I
oh.
hope someone, some bird, dragon, whatever. um. Anyway, so but I didn't set up on the porch because I haven't didn't finish, but out on the porch on the edges out of camera view are tables and all sorts of where I do work things, and so um I've taken it all apart and thrown stuff out and given stuff away, and I have a little pile of things that I would like to keep. I don't think they'll end up being kept, but so it's interesting. I had a very cool
Well,
video come in.
if there's something you want kept, I mean, Tom and I are gonna have storage for a while. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I could, if we hook up before you head out into the
Yeah.
world, whether you come my way or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, if there's some things you need to store, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I
you know,
think that I very much appreciate that. Hey, Jeannie. I very much, your audio is not on. If you're, I mean, your audio says you're clear now, but there you go. And just tilt so we can see you. The porch is listing backwards. We can't see. That's a very nice offer, Barbara. Thank you very much. I think right now what I'm looking at is, I like the idea of something and I really like it, just like crystals, I love I think, well, the ones that don't appeal to me, they'll be easy. I'll put those in a pile. The only problem with that is, every time I pick one up and I'm having a conversation, But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's kind of all pulled out. I did have a lovely thing though. I was looking at looking into a container of a bunch of crystals I'd carved and did some polishing and stuff. And I've already gave that stuff away yesterday to Toby and his daughter, who loves stuff. It was actually her birthday was on.
That's nice. That's a good
Equinox.
place.
So I gave all my tumbling and my diamond encrusted bits.
Wow.
So I said, here. And he took all that. And anyway, so today I was looking in and there were these really cool ones I had tumbled, and they're pretty, and you can see the different gems in them and, whatever they are, right? Amethyst or labradorite or all sorts of different things. And I polished them, and, and sometimes they're just, either they have, anyways, they don't come out perfect, right? Although I don't even know what perfect is. So they don't come out like that. And I thought, so as I was doing them, I would kind of say, well, these really speak to me. And maybe if I wanted to, I don't know how to make jewelry, but do that or do something with it. And then I had all these other ones, which had beautiful energy. And way back when, the thought was to put them in this little patio, my first ever patio I'd made, right here. And I say patio, that's loosely, just a path, dug up the dirt and a path and chairs to sit in. I got this cool, it's two chairs together and a thing. And I've only ever had one human sit there with me, and it was for about 10 minutes. The cat has sat there a lot with me, and Susan actually was the only person ever who sat there, and never had any visitors other than that. Of course, this place doesn't welcome them. But so I was looking in these boxes of these things, and I never had the energy to get to that project. And I thought, oh, that's good. These really are cool. And they just have some magical energy about them, aside from they're all crystals of different kinds. Some of them are actually the opals from Australia. I remember I did a thing about this whole prize packets. Instead of flying to Australia, I could, do it the other way around. And so that was a very cool adventure. Anyway, so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I really like these, and I'm not sure what to do. And so some I got moved. And so tonight after the porch gathering here, I'll go and whatever area of the land here calls to me, I'll go and I'll do a little appreciation, gratitude, thank you ceremony and goodbye to this wonderful piece of land that I've been able to be,
nice.
caretaker on. So that I'll do that. And I'll be guided that it'll be someplace where someone's not going to come along, and if they don't appreciate, they go, what the hell is that? But then I was looking at the other ones, and there just was something even more special for that moment of that. So I looked and I thought, oh, well, what would be good to do with these? And I had this video come through, and it was very bubbly energy. And it dawned on me it was being sent by a whole, I don't know what's a gathering group. I don't know if they have a languaging for it, but of fairies and elementals. And they were actually they were creating the video. So they were choosing what was coming in my third eye. And it was of his two little girls, Toby's two daughters. And it was asking, and the fairies were showing them how to create a little fairy garden with all of these myriad of different gemstones. There's probably 30 or 40 different kinds and big containers from it. And I thought, oh, that would be fun. So I thought, well, here you go. I told them that, all of me was going to show up. way back last Sunday night, you know. So I texted him. I said, I have a question for you. I said, I had this internal video come through, and I wanted just to know if you run it by Hazel and Stella. So Hazel just turned 10 on spring equinox, and Hazel's going to be, Stella will turn 13 in July. Anyway, so just see if they like it, And so I just said a little bit about it. And so he texts back, said, that's great. Send me the link to the video, and that'd be great. And I roared with laughter. I said, I'd love to, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So I went on to give him kind of like, I couldn't think of a word for it, but it's not, subtitles, but kind of maybe a little bit of the voiceover narrative of what the video is, which actually came out. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just texting what I was coming through. And he laughed. He said, yeah, I can see that'd be a little hard to get me to text it. But I had this wonderful little time with the video coming through, and he thought it was, he knows I'm weird, so it's okay. But he thought that was an interesting experience, and he said, well, yeah, I'll read this to the girls and see, what they think and they say. So if they want to play, then I'll give them all the stuff, and they can go create a fairy garden. And I said, in the thing I texted him, I said, they want to come play there with you, and some may even decide to make their home in that area. So anyways, so that's why we're not out on the porch.
Great.
Hey, Jeannie. Hey, David. How's it going? You're muted. There you go.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Do you have any sea creatures that are swimming by your house?
I'm pretty sure I do. I've been watching I use that. You remember I mentioned it on the first porch or whatever, that there's a webcam that just kind of stares at the ocean. So I've been using that as my screensaver or whatever at work.
Oh, cool.
And, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's on purpose or by default that the camera can't keep up with the streamingness of it. So I'll kind of make some creature out or something interesting, and then all of a sudden it'll pixelate. And I'm like, yeah, that was looking cool. So
well, actually, in your area of those waters, you may be intentionally on purpose.
Oh yeah, I feel that very strongly.
Yeah.
So, and I just I saw a news article. I didn't know that there was an evergreen I think it's called Ever Forward.
Yeah.
Is the name of the ship that is now mysteriously
sinking, turned.
No, it's run aground.
Yeah.
In the water in the Chesapeake Bay, which is not too far from here.
Yeah.
So I had heard about a boat being stuck up there, but I didn't realize it was that boat with that company. That was, I'm assuming is a sister ship of the one from was it Suez Canal?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So so I have to do a little bit more digging into that, but that's very interesting.
It's not going ever forward anymore. In fact, what it's been doing all these years is no longer going to be happening anymore. So.
Right. And there was a little guy that he was doing a TikTok video of it or whatever. And so he was up close and just kind of cracking some jokes. He's like, I think they have the anchor down or not or whatever right now. He's like, I think that's a little redundant, but there's a park here. So it was it was interesting. Interesting.
Well, maybe so it won't get more stuck or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think he said there was 12,000 containers on it. That I'm not sure if that's U.S. jurisdiction or how that all works, but it's much closer to here than Suez Canal was, at least physically.
Yeah.
So maybe that's to be continued or some more info coming out. I know it's probably trillion to one that it's just a coincidence.
Well, and it's not normal for that big a vessel to go up that area.
and it's not, what's kind of interesting is that it's actually, according to this video, it's not actually in the shipping channel itself. It's just slightly outside of it. So it kind of means that all of the shipping ships get to go by it. And so almost like a billboard, you know, so kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I don't believe in coincidences, so that there's a whole
No,
thing around that anyway.
I'm sure there's some.
How far away is it from land? I mean, from the shoreline?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's in the shipping channels of the Chesapeake Bay, which Chesapeake Bay is pretty big. So, you know,
I
I'm
would
assuming
think
the
it would
channel.
be in U.S. jurisdiction. I would think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
The Coast Guard and all that, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a big draw through the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, there's
right.
quite a deep haul that can go through
Mhm.
there.
So it's probably in the center or close to the center, but yeah, like I said, lots of traffic going through there. So you know, and it says biggest day, Evergreen forward, or ever forward by Evergreen, or whatever. So
Now it's
and
ever
you know,
stuck.
right, and the people you know, commenting about it, they're saying you know, these ships are very high tech, their navigation capabilities.
Right.
So unless they've been hijacked or hacked, you know, it's very unlikely that a normal skipper situation or whatever, a captain is gonna mistakenly cause that to happen.
Right,
You know,
especially this time of year in the Chesapeake Bay. It's not
right,
open ocean, it's calm waters, and
right,
you know, it's not nor'easter season.
right, right. So it'll be interesting.
But maybe what's the kind of crab that comes soon? In the Chesapeake Bay, there's a I can't think of the name of the kind of crab. But you know, who knows?
Is it
Maybe
blue?
no,
Is
blue
it the blue
claws are
crab?
more on the northeast, on the east
Oh,
coast. But whatever the kind of crab is, I was just gonna, you know, kind of make a funny that, well, the crabs got all excited and they tilted the ship.
Yep.
Hiding the barnacles. Hey Jeannie, how you doing? Hey Jennifer, how you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good. Good. So this is a porch. So everybody just hangs out and, you know, whatever kind of porch perching, wasn't that what you said, David?
Yeah,
Whatever porch perching
yeah.
goes on and comes to mind. Those are the only rules here. Fun and the love of a good porch sitting in the afternoon.
Cool. I was looking at some fun stuff on Telegram today. Awakened Species, I think, is the channel I was checking out. And they had all kinds of pictures of old architectural structures, columns that looked similar to energy devices. And there was a Patreon channel that was pointed to with a lot of these photographs, but it just kind of set my mind to thinking, you know, how vastly we have been deceived in our education, or, you know, indoctrination, or whatever you want to call it. But it was really fascinating to look at those things. And, you know, I've believed and known about free energy for a while now. And in terms of where do we go from here? Well, where are we actually? I mean, how much of this stuff is existing right now that we have not a clue that it is existing?
Right.
You know, and so once the veil is taken away and all, you know, the house of cards crumbles, you know, because I've been trying to work my mind around what could this look like, and mainly just staying in my heart and doing my best to be present, because I have no clue when I try and use my brain. And you know, and then things like this come across my path, and it's like, oh well, there's some possibilities there. So it was pretty fun.
Very cool.
What you were sharing is evoking in me, you know, because because of the channel and everything, I get put in a lot of groups on Facebook, get asked to join different groups and whatnot. And what you were describing there sounds like one of the Facebook groups that I got put in about the mud flood information, which is it shows a lot of that architecture that you were discussing there. And, I've come across someone, I'm going to actually have a conversation with her tomorrow. Linda Good McGillis, who's got a theory that the earth actually ascended in 2012. And that what we've been doing ever since is walking through our Akash. Now, I have some anecdotal puzzle pieces that when I heard her say that, I went, say what now? Hold on a second, because it was as though a puzzle piece that fit in a specific sort of tumbler clicked. And all of a sudden, what I thought I saw as a puzzle piece or a puzzle sort of clicked away. And now I saw this larger puzzle and these other disparate puzzle pieces that I've, just had hanging out there are starting to ping and shine in different ways that are just kind of phenomenal. So sort of and some of what you just described brought that forward again for me. So very interesting that all of that sort of stuff. And then, what we saw going on before the last president left office with the attempts at history being rewritten with, tearing down statues and renaming bases and, all this kind of stuff in the, in the name of, whatever in the hell they wanted to call it. But I mean, what it really was rewriting history again, much like what is claimed to have been done with this whole mud flood thing, right? Like there's been resets time immemorial. One of the reasons they use those, birds like they do, especially that double-headed one.
But the Pixies'
Well,
latest video
yeah.
mentioned the mud flood.
Right.
Yep. Did you hear it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And almost like a reverse hijacking of what they had intended, but actually for the good guys with good outcomes this time. So that's kind of interesting that that's popping up in other places.
Well, at the very least, there, what we think of and look of around here as far as technology, or when you were looking at that, Jeannie, of all of this, is that there are right now. We don't need anything new or to develop anything, because right now there's all sorts of, you could say, extraterrestrial or non-local technologies and everything actually in use all over the planet. It's pretty old stuff compared to what the newest creation invention is on whatever mass of non-time that you look at it is. But right now, I mean, you can go, there's vehicles, there's pure cleaning, everything, burning of all that stuff, completely new things that we, kind of Jetsons like, although it's all that stuff that's very old stuff that's hi Weasley.
Weasley joined the porch.
Yeah. So it's already, so a part of that answer, Jeannie, is it's already right here, and it's used all the time in the right households and in the right areas. And so people will see that. But my hope is that we'll jump beyond that, because if we go too much into that, it feels like it's a different vibration, like the current, like in the UK it's one current if you plug in, and in the United States it's another, right?
Right.
So I have a sense of that if we go, instead of us bringing it forward, however that works out, it's more like using an old thing in a different current arrangement, which locks us back into that old structure.
That's exactly how I was feeling, BZ. So we think it's new, so we go, ooh, and grab it. But really it's old. It's been in use for a long time. And something else that came to me was that we are endless energy source.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So the
Yeah.
technology is here. It's within us. It's within our grasp. We have access to it all the time. And what's happened is they've used this external device, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you can label it all kinds of things, but they're utilizing outside to keep us from using what's within, which gives us the free energy, the continuous motion motors and, blah, blah, blah. That's something that I try to I became aware of and try to make sure that I go, oh, well, that's cool. They can transport people. So can I. I just don't know how to do it yet. I don't remember how to do it
Well,
right now.
That's one of the biggest examples right
Yep.
here of it's handy, and I use it far too much just because for the job here, but this replaces, because it's you could look at it in the positive sense. It's the last physical, tangible thing before we jump and fully use our eye tech and our intercoms and communicate that way. Just like what was it, Jupiter Ascending, where they're in the traffic and there's a screen and all the lines are going down and she's separating out all the conversations, and then with nothing but her, and hones into the conversation. So on the good side, that's just one last thing, and then we jump to that. On the intended consequences, is it so we're so engrossed in that we don't use all the rest of this.
Right.
And from a very young age, we're taught that you need the phone to talk to your friend. You can't.
Yeah, and many of us have discussed that in many different ways. I can remote view or visit in another realm or dimension or another vibration, however you want to say it. So I can come and visit you, Sheila, in your room right now, right? And I can see a flower, or I can have a conversation. It's just, we've been doing it outside of us, putting our magic, so to speak, using our abilities in devices outside of us. So now we're practicing and remembering how to do it from within, where we don't need to have this little phone.
We've been outsourcing it.
Yeah.
Outsourcing it.
Yeah.
Well, and there's an
Self-hijacking.
right, and there's an and in that for me. Not only have I feel like we've been outsourcing it, but then even when it starts to show up because of the interactions. Okay, Jennifer, you used me as an example of visiting me, having a conversation with me. So let's say you have a conversation with me and you don't get the same conversation in person with me, face to face, through Zoom, on the phone, whatever, right? That you did in your heart space. Now, are you gonna trust what you got? Or are you going to doubt what you got? Even if the being that you're speaking to says, I don't know what you're on about because I never said none of that. I don't feel like that. You're out of your mind. Don't know what you're on about. Because the truth of the matter is, what I have found through my experience is that when we're communicating, we are multidimensional. And yes, you are communicating with that being, but which part of that being? Is it the part that the being is actually hearing and paying attention to and listening and sensing and feeling? Is it another part of the being that the being in the chair, meaning me, because I'm speaking to you, isn't hearing or paying attention to or believing when she is hearing or paying attention to? All of these things play into this for me, especially when, again, like I say, hey, did you feel me tapping out, reaching out, looking for it? No, I didn't feel a thing. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, well, I guess it didn't work. All the while, it actually did. And either they didn't pay attention or whatever. This is the thing that and having all those conversations with Lisa and BZ helped me more than anything else ever in my entire life. For coming to know I don't give two rat crap asses anymore who don't care, who don't know, who don't believe, whatever. I'm trusting me 100, baby. And that means I might, and listen, I've been on about this here lately because there's a lot of light workers and everybody else who thinks that their way is the best way. Yes.
For them.
For them. It cannot, nor will it ever be the way for me. Now, I have gained so much from being open to hearing all of these things from everyone, not just the folks y'all have seen me conversate with, but anyone and now, because I hear BZ's words in my head echoing a long time ago, telling me that it could be valuable for me to go back and listen to my own words in some of my videos. And lo and behold, if this week I haven't come to the knowing that I need to listen to my own damn words right out of my mouth. She told me that a long time ago, but I wasn't ready, I guess. I couldn't hear, you know what I mean? So at this juncture, I feel like for me personally and for everybody on the planet, it's time we relax into ourselves and know we got this, no matter what it looks like or feels like at this moment.
I agree.
Play. We've either forgotten how or never had a friggin' clue how to play. And as we're creator beings and we're really good at playing. So to get back into that and play. You know, I'd love to, I'll start to offer them. I want to do where we have, in the Living Life in HE, where we have energy labs, where we come together and say, okay, we know the idea is this kind of energy or this kind of play, who's in, who wants to play. We all think, or, you know, do we want any guidelines of how we want to do it or whatever? I mean, I said that to Jennifer. I forgot if Jennifer reached out and asked me or if I asked her, but she was going on, she said, do you want to play remotely? I said, sure. She was going for a walk. And so she texted me and said, I'm in a walk. She didn't say where. She said, I'm taking a walk, I'm doing this. And I said, okay, great. So I was not on the phone, not talking to her the whole time, never a voice, right? And so I had a moment, I was sitting at the desk over here and I was tuning in. And I'd ask a question. And I said at one point, as then she'd send a little picture or she'd send just vibes, right? And at one point I said, okay, the incline's changing and something about it going up an incline and shifting your center of gravity and a couple of other things. And, you know, I wasn't, you know, am I right? It wasn't about that. It was just, I was doing something and she had come in to want to play with something on that. And I said, sure, reached over, you know, grabbed the phone, texted whatever it was back, and then was playing with her wherever we were walking or doing. And I'm looking around like I would do is there a creek or a flower or, wow, what's that? You know, or, you know, gee, I wish I had my camera and those kinds of things. And so I just would reach over as I'm doing something else and say, well, the gravity is different or the, you know, and she texted back, you know, what was going on.
What's amazing about that is you're back to that communication, our natural communication where we're not outsourcing it and communicating even through voice. Yes, the vibration, it's multidimensional, but you don't need your voice per se, right? So where I just totally just lost it. But anyway, my point is that I most of the time did not have any access to a signal on my outsourced device. And we were still able to communicate. I was still able to send you images and experiences. And you picked up on them without me giving you any clues, which confirms right there how we do our inner communication, where it's soul to soul. I'm showing you something, you're picking up on it. And yes, as individuals, we're what's translating that energy. So it's like it's almost like you're seeing what I'm seeing, but we're seeing through two different eyes, yet we're seeing the same thing and describing it, experiencing it differently, yet it's the exact same. It's the same energy. I was going up a hill, I'm looking at a creek, I found a gorgeous flower, wished I had a camera. Good camera. I mean, it just, you're back to, so I think one thing for me as I'm remembering and coming back in fully is the communication is different with the vibration and the energetic communication, where I'm visiting you. You could say out of body. We'll just say out of body just for giggles, because I'm not there in my body, right? But that
yet to be determined, right?
Well, right.
Just haven't noticed it yet. Who knows?
There's my ability to transport myself, right? But the point is that it feels different, and it takes some getting used to, because again, we're remembering. This is something we already can do, we have done. But as we're bringing everything, all of us back in, that's when those things truly activate. And the more pieces of those puzzles, Sheila, the more of you comes in, the more of those pieces, the more
I love the way you describe that, though, because
you, man.
I love the way you describe that, though, because what you're talking about is taking your consciousness and moving it to her vessel, and vice versa. You see, that's why I'm
sharing her lens, her eyes.
That's what I mean.
The lens of her camera, right?
That's what I'm speaking on.
And what was funny, I said, so I'm texting, I'm doing whatever I'm doing and walking with Jennifer and, reaching over and texting a few things, right? And you know how if you don't have service and all of a sudden you have service, and whatever your text signal is, it'll bloop, 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 right? Because all the things have loaded in. So both our phones, several states away, go bloop, 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 and we go, oh yeah, look at that. So we've been having in the text window with pictures and all that stuff, having this one conversation and doing it otherwise. Because one of the last things I said to her was, you seem to be speeding up. Your energy is really moving. You're moving fast now. Are you running? And she said, no, I'm in the car, I'm driving. So again, I
was flying.
Right? All these things. So yeah, if anybody on here today and who listens would like to play with that kind of stuff, I think it would be great fun, because it's a way for us. Trusting is one of the biggest things, to play and then to trust. Because when you're playing, there's nothing to get right or wrong. You're playing.
That brings in how we're all changing and moving. It feels different because it is different. And it's there, and it's like almost swirly, like the message is almost swirly. It's not like in focus. Anyway, it has something to do with that change. Like we have certain sensations in our body when we change direction. We have when we're driving fast in the truck versus walking on foot. There's a change. Never mind. Step it out. No.
No, that makes sense. Well, I wonder do you think it changes I don't think this is the right word to kind of describe it, the signal velocity or something about the
man.
Well, I mean, if everything's energy and things are swimming in energy, and then you got a car, I don't know.
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah,
string.
you're getting into spiritual physics instead of that fake
Okay, well,
3D
since I'm
physics.
not good at non-spiritual physics, maybe I need to step back out
Well,
of that.
I was kind of trying to touch on that in text earlier today when I was talking about measuring the distance of the currents and the energies, and I was like, I just don't have the words. Sorry, someone else was trying to speak. Hi.
I was just gonna say today I had two different people that I was texting, my daughter and a new friend. And in the conversation with my daughter, I would hear the sound go off from the text notification, but I didn't see her message. And it was popping up behind, like in history of the messages that I was sending her. And so there's like 5 messages that I've done, and all of hers are appearing in the history, and they're dated like hours previous, but it was happening in the moment. And with the other lady, the text was pretty normal, you text, I text, you text, I text. But then there was one message that popped up at the beginning before our conversation, before my first text to her, and it was dated at 3:23 in the morning. So I don't know what's going on with with the technology, but good. I've been noticing glitches in the matrix. I was in the kitchen the other night listening to Pandora and running my kitchen water. I was doing dishes, and I'm constantly musing in my head about things, talking to myself, whatever. And I wish I could remember what I was pondering in the moment, because simultaneously the water flow of my kitchen sink it slowed, and in the same moment my music on my Pandora slowed. It was kind of like when there's a brownout of electricity, how it kind of goes down for a second. Well, it happened with my water and my music at the same time. I was like, what was that? So these things for me are kind of making me think, well, in the moment where the water and the music went down, I thought, oh, it's a glitch in the matrix. And I just kind of laughed to myself. And then I thought about BZ saying, we can be or do or have whatever we want. We can create. It's a new moment now, and the 0 point is here, and what we want to see in our future, we would do well to play with now. And so when that happened, I thought, well, what am I wanting to do? Because instantly I thought, we're so mentally indoctrinated, programmed, whatever, conditioned to look at what we have as this is what it is and this is all there is. But I've been playing with the idea of what if this really is a program? What if we really are in the matrix? What if, so and then also one of the things that happened right after it was, I thought, well, what do you want to do? Well, what I've always wanted to do is to kind of help be the bridge. I've been blessed to be able to stay in a happy and loving space personally. And it hurts my heart to see people that I care about suffering and in a lot of fear. And so, my thought was, well, I want to be the bridge to help them find their happy place, and to help them not be so afraid to, soothe them and say, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And each of you have the power to make it okay for you. You can choose to be happy. You can be empowered to know that that monster can't touch you if you know it can't touch you. That thing that you're scared of that's in the dark it has no power over you. It only has the power that you give it. So so when this thing happened with the texting today, it's kind of like my big genie, my higher self, source, whatever you want to call it, whatever label, you want to put on it, is kind of just nudging me to say, don't bind yourself by what you observe. Spend more time playing, spend more time, closing your eyes and going within, spend more time doing what makes your heart sing, grounding, taking tree baths, watching the birds sing, whatever it is. Because the more that you observe out here with, great focus and energy, you tend to create more of. And I've seen enough of what's going on out here. I haven't really looked at much of the intel lately because it's like, I just know within myself that it's going to be okay. So I've stopped listening to all of the, this and that, and, getting myself all in an anxious wad over everything, and just kind of giving myself the air, the emotional air, the space, the freedom, the energy, whatever, to allow that stuff that I've already created through my experience in this contrasting environment to unfold, and to allow myself to move into it and in the moment. And then, in a linear, it's so hard to talk linear and expansion. It's like, to allow myself to let it, to flow into it. So anyway, it's been really fun.
Did you say tree bath?
Yeah.
Yeah, Z often does tree baths. She takes us for a walk with the dogs, shows us all the beautiful trees.
Look behind Barbara. She's in a persistent tree bath.
Yeah, I know the term.
Well, Jeannie, one of the things that I've thought about it before. We've talked a little bit about this, but it came really clear right this moment is, isn't there a movie like Changing Doors or something? I'm not good with movies. Sliding doors, and I've used it in lots of conversations I've had with Sheila and Lisa, where everything seems to freeze frame. I don't know, there was one I was telling a story or something, and I'm in a big swimming pool with all the lanes, like a big Olympic size at the Olympics, and all the swimming lanes, and there's all the noise, and the people are swimming, and all of a sudden everything just slow mo's down to just freeze frame. Except in that moment I was doing whatever I was doing, and so I think that we give that to ourselves, because how many times do we think of something, or we notice something, and we think, oh, that's a big epiphany, or I'm going to do more of that, or I'm going to play with more of that, and then we don't. But if we mark it for ourselves this way, the water slowed and the Pandora slowed and I stopped, right? That's a marker. We're throwing up markers all over the place because we haven't been friggin' noticing. So I guess they figure if they take a bus and hang it upside down and say, hey, are you watching now?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, as a single mom, I haven't met you guys before. Hello, it's nice to meet you. I was a single mom for 25 years or whatever. I mean, still am, but they're all grown. But just being the mom and the dad, and in the rat race, and doing your best to do your best to make things work. And and that's another thing for in my scenario, the fear of being homeless with the kids or not being able to feed them dinner. Thankfully they're all grown now, but getting into that habit of just the routine and going through the motions. And but now with those things happening, it's like, yeah, they're little signs that are very clear, because I mean I've seen signs and, just intentionally trying to stay in appreciation. And, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Abraham Hicks, but just getting up in the morning, being in appreciation, staying clear, staying in the vortex, staying in the flow. Things are always working out for me, and seeing triple numbers and all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing that for a while now, but this water and music thing, I mean, come on, it's not the electricity because, or is it? I don't know. Does the pumping stage, who knows? I mean, I'm not going to think too much about it, but I like what you said, BZ, about, a marker where, we're showing ourselves what's possible, and to play and give myself permission to let go of all the have tos and the shoulds and whatnot, and allow myself the possibility to be open to the possibilities of what could be. I mean, you saying that stuff about the technology already exists that does these magical things, but it's old technology. And, I know that we have abilities like levitation and telecommunicate, or what do you call it? Telekinesis, and all these things that we are innately born with, but don't know that we're born with because we're born into the system. So I mean, when you think along these terms, it just my heart is like going, what possibilities. It's like so exciting to even like begin to grasp that. It's like, wow, what is it going to be like? And it could be, we could have an infinities of new worlds, because you guys can each have your own, well, and we each have our own experience. We each have our own abilities and our own level of allowing ourselves to move in the abilities, and then our connections with one another. And like you guys were talking earlier about the conversations that our higher selves are having, and then when we become in alignment with it, they all come flowing in. And so I mean, you could go on forever postulating like what's possible and what could be. And the more I allow myself to think about the fantastical, and it's not really fantastical, that's our natural ability, it's really exciting. Because when you live in a world where there's so much oppression and you have to work so hard to make things work, and that these things are possible, but you're not flowing in it because you're too stressed out or too tired or whatever. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, that spiritual physics is coming up for me again. I'm gonna have to write a book.
There you go. I'll read it so I can catch up on it too.
No, if you think about it, what is time? Like, we mark a clock to be somewhere at a certain time in a certain place, whatever, right? But when you're in that 0 point where you create, you can look behind you at the past, you can look ahead at the future, you can connect with you can connect with other beings and energies now, always. But time's a funny thing if you want to play with time, because that's kind of there's been moments in my life, we'll say moments, long stretches of moments, where time dragged on and on. Maybe you wanted it to pass, or maybe you needed to get more done, or maybe you're like, where'd the hour go? But look at all I got done. You know what I'm saying? Like, time's slippery, because it's I don't know. Can you help me grasp some words, maybe, BZ? I mean,
well, time's slippery.
Well,
yeah, it's slippery in the construct. All that kind of stuff is slippery too. I think that, well, one of the things that I've been playing with every day in the little journals I've been doing in my days notice 40 days is, there's this thing where, be in the now moment. Okay, cool. So I'm in the now moment. And a lot of times that comes with but don't do X. I'm thinking, okay. So I don't know if anybody else just noticed that. I'm going to be in my heart. I'm going to be in the now moment, but I got to do don'ts. So there's something wrong with this picture. All right. I'm just saying it's occurring to me. There's something wrong with that picture. So I'm wrestling with that. Okay. Be in the now moment. Don't worry. Be focused. Stay in your heart. Okay. Yeah. But I have this thing. I have to be out of here. And that's in the future. So can I not? Right. And I talk about crazy making. So I said, okay, I called, this really cool group of all different kinds of, I said, I need a little help understanding this whole, time now, don't do this sort of a thing. Because I don't do well with don'ts. I mean, it's like a bull. As soon as you say don't, it's like, so I'm thinking, well, it's helpful to talk with your future self, right? If I'm going to put things on a timeline, linearize it, right? And obviously heal my past, all kinds of stuff. So I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. If it's only the now moment, then all that can integrate into the moment, which means all of myself will be integrated, which means that time will, in essence, disappear in a rigid structure. And hey, I can have all of this wisdom all at the same time. And the word don't hasn't appeared anywhere. So I don't know about the rest of the metaphysics or magic or anything else, but for me, that seems to be a cool thing. I don't have to make myself wrong, and I can feel happy and fun and better. And I'm actually getting information. So that's the best I got on the slippery time thing. Trust, I think, is, what an amazing thing if we trusted ourselves. And I mean, I'm sure you all have had many times where you felt you've been tuning in, whatever you're doing, walking, meditating, whatever you're doing, working hard, whatever it is. And you felt all the love that all of you has for you. I mean, wham, dropped you to your knees at the expanse of that. And it's unmistakable and it's undeniable, right? And it's palpable. And can you imagine if we lived in that space where we in the shirt did that for we in the shirt, and then the shirt's next to us, so meaning the just the physicality, and then walked through that, played from that space, and because I'm in this kind of, it's kind of like I know it seems like your water slowing down and your music slowing down, Jeannie. I'm in this zone, so I work here because I'm finishing it out, but I don't have a job here anymore. But I'm not in the new place or in the new flow either. I'm in this no time, space, no space, time, whatever it is, where I'm shifting. It feels, and it's becoming more and more tangibly real, where I'm walking in that space between the false construct and the new vibrational landscape, which are both incredibly real with all of them. And it's like I'm taking off coats and things that were put on me, that I put on, that, whoa, I said, well, I need more of those, more restrictions, more doubt, more worry, gimme, right? And I'm peeling them off as I walk down this thing. And it's a very surreal, fascinating experience. So I'm not sure what comes at the end of those 40 days in the walk, but I'm thinking it's so much better than the walk I was on, today's day 9. So 10 days ago. Bet. I don't know. There's got to be more. I know that. I know there's got to be more than all of this that and even we touch the magical, and it's cool that people are touching it more and more. But I'm curious. I know I'm curious about this with myself every day, especially now. It's all seems to be heightened, really in a high definition focus. Why don't I play with that all the time? Why isn't that? I can do it anywhere with anything while I'm doing anything.
Maybe because we forget.
Yeah. I don't know.
That darn outsourcing again.
Yeah.
And it also
I-
puts the responsibility back into our laps.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of responsibility.
But wasn't that the
Yeah.
biggest, like one of the biggest outsources? Like we said, hey, why don't you run our life? Why don't you manage
Right.
this? And we'll even act like we have a choice and elect people to boss us around.
Mhm.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're in our true nature, we're 100% responsible. We're responsible.
Yeah, and I
And-
definitely see people. It's almost like, I don't know that they see it, but as long as they're not living in their own liability and responsibility, then there's always someone else to blame or be mad at, or some to outsource the blame, and all of that. So
Right.
being sovereign and independent and responsible for yourself and all of its freedom takes a lot of maturity, and it's exciting, but it's also scary too, but it definitely feels good.
It does feel
Well, for me, sorry, go ahead, Beezy.
No, I was just saying it feels good.
I was going to say, for me personally, when I took responsibility for my own experience, it changed everything. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I had a controlling and abusive husband, and I grew up doing what other people told me to do because I thought that's the way it should be, or was supposed to be, or the way it was, or whatever. It just, you listen to the priest, you listen to your dad, you listen, so at the point, where, I took responsibility for myself and said, nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do what's right for me, what I know in my own being that is what needs to be done. And from that point on, I mean, I'm a completely different person than I was back when I was letting other people drive me around. So.
And I don't really think there's any going back. I don't feel that there is.
Nope.
No, you can't go back to sleep. It just doesn't work.
You can't get plugged back in, no matter what they think. And
sometimes in a weak moment, you can think, well, maybe I could just, I could film it. And it's like, sorry, that ship sailed, baby.
Even not, literally, like I think Jeannie was talking about, it's so hard to just even make sense of anything that we're being shown, especially on TV or whatever. Are we real? Are we in a computer? Are we, and it's just like this, I don't know, it forces me to disregard almost all of it, just ignore. I mean, other than just observe it and kind of chuckle and laugh, but having to say, yes, that's true, or, with any kind of accuracy or resonance is, I guess it's just like more and more acuity with our discernment,
Yeah.
But
it kind of puts you in a
like
position.
The mud flood, we were talking about that earlier, and I've not looked deeply into that, but I've looked a little bit into it, and there were definitely some things that resonated. But if I had to choose, say 100%, yes, that's how it went down, or that's what they were planning. Sounds like one of the swimming lanes for sure,
Right.
but I don't know. And I guess being okay with that I don't know. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the lanes, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's
interesting.
interesting because you either reach out and you grab one for dear life so
Right.
you don't
Right.
drown,
Right.
or you go within. And I
Mhm.
think that a number of us have gotten compressed and stretched and compressed and stretched and been like, okay, so roller coaster ride, well, but it's in here. What we really need to know is in here. And we can
Mhm.
still look out and get pieces, or play with something like a new idea you're exposed to. I had so much fun for 3 or 4 months with the flat earth. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. No, it taught me a
But
lot.
I'm more like spheres that overlap is kind of
Yeah.
where I landed currently, because it's the different energy of just saying we live on a flat surface and we'll fall off the edge eventually.
There's another one of those stones. Don't go too close to the edge.
Right,
You'll fall. Okay, now I'm sorry. We're either source or we're not. So we don't have an edge to fall off of here.
Right. Yeah, my dive
so
into
much
the flat earth.
fun.
Yeah, my research into flat earth, I try to tell people, I'm like, I can't definitively say either way. I can just say that I can definitively say either we're not where we were taught we are, or
Mhm.
the laws of science and physics no longer work the way that they did before when we were taught that. So it's some combination of that. I don't know if it's flat, but they got some really good arguments.
We've all touched that on.
Yeah, that should easily, for me, it's like, if it's so obvious and, blah, 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 then it should be obvious, easy to prove, and observe, and not only through NASA. So, or whatever,
Yeah, whatever. The concave
They're like, but
glass.
NASA says it is. And I'm like, I know, but there should be other ways that don't rely on NASA to prove it.
Exactly.
Like for the people that came before NASA did, or, so yeah, that just feels like it should be. So that there's some element of truth to the flat earth. Like I said, that, and for me, it was, I could tell because of the virulent response that people would have when you mentioned it. It was so different than any other. You could say, everybody's a lizard or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you mentioned flat earth, many times almost violent reaction. So I'm like, whatever it is, there's something that's very triggering in that specific concept. So
I feel like
fascinating to watch.
I feel like the trigger might be that you're threatening their reality. I mean,
yeah, pretty much flat earth. If it's flat, that's like a whole, everything is on top of flat earth, and all the other theories are kind of contained with that. So it's whatever it is, it must be very, on a subconscious level, very threatening, because it's interesting to watch.
Well, again, we're just
Well,
on a round marble floating through space.
There's a lot
That's
that
kind
doesn't
of
make
what we're
sense.
taught. It's gravity that keeps our feet on the ground. It's we have this layer above us that keeps our air in. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
there's it's too 3D, and that's why it's kind of like, because it's not multidimensional. They're going, here's this marble floating in space. It's cold. You know what I'm saying? Like they give you
Right.
these, this is black and white, but it's not black and white. And that's people who pick up on other energies and get different images and views of this little blue and green ball that's floating in space. These
Well,
little
it's
ants called
like,
humans on them.
You go out at night, it's a beautiful clear night, right? It's not raining and there isn't a lot of light pollution, and you see stars everywhere. So why is it that when NASA takes a photograph, there's no light out there? I can be on this planet, whether it's flat or round,
Right.
and I can
And
see.
so
my eyes work better on the ground than the mega bazillion dollar telescopes out there which are closer than I am with better magnification?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's what I mean. Like some really basic questions that just should not ever exist, let alone not, you know, there to be the only one to say it's this way is basically one agency that, but we've all been very well trained to defer to them, you know?
Right.
So,
For like $1,000, you can buy a camera. We'll just say I haven't bought one, but for $1,000, you can buy a camera and zoom in enough to see the moon
yep.
and things flying past it and around it, and
Or through it,
you know
or
what I'm
behind
saying?
it. Yeah.
But not only are UFOs a new thing that oh wow, there really are. They're going to change the name of that. Talk about rewriting history. But my point is, you can buy a camera, have your feet on this earth, in your little town, in your little state, on your little continent, and you can see stuff in space with your own ojos and capture it on film digitally.
Right.
It's not altered, it's not a light, whatever you call that, anomaly. Like I could see what's on the planet or what's on the
Right.
moon and beyond with a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing I think too is that whatever, I don't like the word, but whatever camp or whatever things, if there's attachment to it, right? So whatever, if it has to be a round earth, we'll say blue marble, or it has to be a flat earth, and careful you don't fall off, right? All that kind of stuff, but there's attachment to it. Well, where does that come from?
Mm-hmm.
As far as isn't, for me, there's a difference between feeling into something and playing with it, and if I may have something else that comes into my awareness and I play with that, and sometimes I have a wonderful thing where I realize, holy smokes, man, you are attached to that. So what's that about? Right? But what's the common denominator in all of those different things? Our own individual knowing, our own individual connecting and looking at that. And that's one thing that we don't seem to have. We're big at all the other camps, but we don't seem to be, we're not championing that camp very much. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's the fear of fracturing. Like I said, you grab something because it's something you can grab and it's something you can ground yourself into that you think is tangible, even though it's all made up crap. But I think I know I went through some shattering and repiecing over the last 4 or 5 years, when I became aware and opened my eyes and started seeing things, some things for what they really were. And then I had to piece myself back together in the process of holding and healing, right? But there were things that if I weren't strong enough and didn't want to move beyond what I thought I was and become who I really am, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. It would have broken me. I mean, there were times where I was practically, like that soul deep, ugly cry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is that real? Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And it was really, I guess it broke part of my container, so to speak. That container I was allowing myself to stay in, and I'd shatter it. And then it'd move out, so to speak. And then I'd shatter it more and it'd move out further. And then I could start bringing me in more. But I think, that's an oversimplification probably, and everybody has different situations. But I feel like people grab stuff so they don't drown, so they don't break.
It almost feels like it's a grieving process too, you know?
Yeah,
I guess
that's exactly it.
When it is, which would explain some of the threat responses, being so extreme, because it's almost like ripping your identity out if the place where you supposedly live isn't at all like what you feel like it has to be, because you've been taught that way, then you kind of what I eventually saw as the freedom that means that it could be all, so many more things and flat and round and 4 different places and whatever it is
Trapezoidal,
we are
yeah,
right now.
right.
Yeah. And then they'll come to find out I'm creating it anyway, so it's like, okay, well, again, it's right back in your lap. So it's
Yeah.
almost like grieving that identity that you were okay with letting someone else kind of be the director of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
And-
having a hard time leaving this conversation, but I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. Much love. My heart is just really joyful right now. So thank you all.
Cool.
Thanks for pulling up a floorboard to sit on the porch.
Yeah.
It was nice to stop by.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
care.
that's why it's so important for all of us to keep playing in our own ways in the heart and trusting, because really quick here, there are going to be, a large population of this world anyways, that are doing just what you're talking about, David. They're like, WTF magnified of everything they talk about. And, Jennifer's talking about shattering. What do you mean it's not iPhone and the newest sneakers that cost $500 for one shoe and all those kinds of things, right?
And most likely, I know that you've said in the past that that the technology will be brought down. If nothing else, that it's us having planned that to kick our butts to jumpstart the intertech or whatever. So imagine that WTF moment with no ability, supposedly no traditional or typical or what we're used to way to communicate with each other. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's more not hiding from ourselves, right? Because people are like, well, there should be private and secret. Well, transparency, that's the whole thing, because you are actually the master of your own vessel, your own sphere, and whatever illusions you are not, popping into reality. Can you imagine when someone, like on Star Trek, the older ones, well, I guess both of them, the Star Trek where Next Generation stuff, where they have what's the thing when they go up and they want to order something to
Oh, not the transporter.
Yeah, well, there's that too, but
The replicator.
there you go, the replicator. And they have some of the episodes or something where they're having some gathering or some meeting or something, and so it's creating all this different stuff from all these different planets and preferences and all that kind of stuff. And there was one that's just popping in my mind where they're at whatever they're doing. They have some representatives from some place that's either far, far, far away or whatever. And so I forgot how they handle it. Somehow, I know, the being connects with the replicator and in some way transmits, it's silent, but transmits to the replicator. I don't know if it's a vision or a kind of a biological menu, so to say, from what they're planning, and it serves it up. Well, the beings thought of those things to write the show because either they're from that, what I'm saying, that's how creativity, imagination pulls all of that in. We're the thin air, the imaginative air that we pull it out of. It's really cool. And if we can, for me, that's what I'm focused on, is focus more with that, because then there isn't time or need to get stuck in worry or fear about, day 41 or any of these other kinds of things, because I'm playing with it. Because now I'm more, things are changing and they're difficult, but there are instances where I can obviously say I'm more alive than I was 10 days ago. which is a really cool thing and a really pathetic thing all at the same time.
Yeah, again, it's like, okay, you really want to be 100% responsible and liable? Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
This is, you know, it's almost like jumping off a cliff or being thrown off a cliff or some combination of both in tandem. And you know, learning how to not be debilitated or stopped by the fear of what could happen or what may have happened in the past, and instead putting your energy towards what you make happen, you know.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, and one of what things that held me back before was worrying about, because I have been homeless, but worrying wasn't that, but it was about my animals. You know, if it was just
yeah,
me, I would have made the jump. And I'm thinking, well, but honestly, look at your life, because right now, you know, I mean, yes, it's a pretty place to live and all that kind of stuff, but all of the things we hang our hats on, it's safe or this or that or the other thing, when you really, again, for me, when I look at it, I was miserable and I was not, and I was killing myself from the inside out, from the soul, from the emotions, from all of that out. I'm thinking, so torturing your dogs and your cat in here in this life, but they're safe.
right.
Let's see. Are you loving them enough yet?
Right.
to quit that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about being self-responsible is, you know, whether we mentally assent to taking responsibility for ourselves or not, we are responsible for ourselves. I mean, from a creative standpoint, you know, even before I made the choice to take the reins, to be responsible for my actions, for my thoughts, my words, my deeds, I already was responsible for creating my experience through my thoughts, my feelings, my words, my actions. But, you know, this is a hard thing for me to even say, because when you think of this in terms of children and the suffering that happens, you know, like, you know, being born into a family, like your mother being abandoned in a dark cornfield when she's pregnant with you, and the angst that goes through her body, the chemicals that go through her body in that moment that you experience before you're even born. It's like, you know, so there is a moment of I have no control over my existence, but yet at some point the creation process is. And so did I start creating my life by choosing to be born of that mother, by choosing to have that experience before I came into this body? Or did I, you know, at some point as a child, you know, when I was, you know, being victimized in one way or another, you know, yes, I can say at this point in my life that I was creating my reality through how I felt, what I observed, how I felt about what I observed, you know, my focus and feeling. And so I feel like that is probably the hardest pill for a lot of people to swallow, myself included, is, you know, I was victimized by my father, by my husband, you know, and no need to articulate the specific offenses, but it took some work on myself to be able to say I'm just as guilty as they are, because I felt like I was a good person. I still feel like I was a good person, but you know, it just, there's a lot of mental entrainment that I experience personally, that I feel like a lot of us experience, that makes it really difficult to say, yeah, it's my fault when you're being victimized. And but I feel like for me, when I was able to take that step, when I owned my part in it, when I realized that, you know, they had been victims too. They had been hurt, and they had
Mhm.
the best out of the hurt that they experienced as well. So I feel like one of my gifts to the world, to myself, is the ability to own it, to own the pain, and to take responsibility, and to allow myself to see that I am creator, and that I do have choice, and that I am powerful, and that which I observe with emotion, I do get more of. And it's quite motivating in that knowing to give myself the gift of closing my eyes and going within, or standing barefoot in the grass, or you know any of the myriad of things that I do to soothe my soul and to consciously create more beauty in my experience. So
Yeah, and look at the expansive gifts you're giving everyone, first with yourself and all, as you move through that whole, I mean, into the whole new journeys and new journeys and new journeys.
Do you have a sense of when you were talking about the water and the music earlier, do you have a sense of, in that moment, that suddenly you're actually observing yourself in that moment? Like it's I don't know. I was thinking about it earlier. I was going to ask it, but something about what you were just saying there. It's almost like some layer of multidimensionality. For me, is popping out, and it seems like a teachable moment that you're teaching yourself, or something like that. So I just was wondering, when you were in the moment with when that happened with the water and the Pandora, do you feel like you're watching yourself, or there's some awareness, some other perspective that you're being shown, or something like that? It's kind of hard to explain it, but you know what I'm saying?
yes, that's a really good question. Yes, and
Okay.
I would say that I'm very intentionally living my life these days.
Mhm.
First in the morning, I'm conscious that I'm awake. I have certain mantras that I say, I guess that's what you call them. I say thank you for, thank you that things are always working out for me. I am the love, I am the light, I'm the truth. Um, and yes, I pay attention, and I often have, self-talk. I feel like it's like between little genie and big genie. I don't know. I just, sometimes, if my neighbors probably think I have company because I have full-on conversations with
Right.
my but but yes, I am very intentional about being conscious and aware and awake in the moment, and the thoughts that I think, and the things that I listen to, the things I allow into my mind, into my my being. So and I'm really thankful that that happened. I was actually kind of surprised, but
Mhm.
really not so surprised, because the more I have this practice, the more I feel like um, the more I feel like I'm allowing the greater, more magical part of myself to participate. When I was younger, I had experiences with quote unquote miracles, like with, people getting physically healed, like praying for someone and having a knowing about something I otherwise would never have known about them, other than my soul was connecting to, the information. Spiritually is the term I would use at the time that it happened to me, or with me, or for me, or whatever. But I feel like those things, those miracles that I experienced like 35 years ago, that I've known in my soul, I know that that that's a possibility. I know divine health is my birthright. I know that I'm the creator of my experience, and back then it was God and the Holy Spirit, and now it's Source and Genie. You know, I mean, I don't discount the whole God thing. I just feel like now I know without a question of doubt in my own being that I am co-creating with that which created me. And I can't really articulate exactly what that is because my perspective and my ideas about it have changed, but I'm more aware of energy and vibration and um, the, the flow, and I feel like
Mhm.
you know, our vocabulary is so limited. That's why I was
Mhm.
getting frustrated earlier. It's like the third dimensional and multidimensional. I get frustrated trying to talk about it because it's like, you know, I know it, but how do I articulate it? You know,
Right.
so for me, it's you know, the scale, fear to love. You know, how
Mhm.
much am I loving myself and allowing love in this moment? How much am I, you know, loving my experience and allowing love in this moment? How much am I, you know, being present and allowing myself to be with what I'm doing? Or how much am I thinking, I don't want to do this. I'd rather be doing something else.
Mhm.
So I'm getting pretty good at being in tune with where I'm at in the moment and what I'm, you know, with what I'm doing. And I pay attention. I mean, I pay attention. And so I'm so thankful that I am in this space that I am, because there was a day that, you know, when I was younger, I just felt powerless. I was afraid. I felt, you know, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine. But anyway, yes. So I do very intentionally and consciously move through my moments these days, um and when it happened, I just kind of laughed like it was the
Mhm.
next logical thing to happen. Like
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. It's
that
like,
was
well, of
so
course,
weird.
that's how it works.
Matrix.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
we can do or have whatever we want to have, you know.
Yeah.
So what am I here for? What do I want to be doing? Have? Well, I want to be a bridge. I want to help other people be where I'm at, because I know how I got here, and a lot of people kind of, you know, have walked the path that I walked. And maybe if I just share what I know, and maybe somebody will be all giddy and happy now instead of going, oh my God. Because of what's going on right now. It's like, I'm, you know,
Well, look where
I
you
think about
jumped.
it, and there was a day that I wouldn't have been able to do that.
You know, look where you jumped. The water stopped, the music slowed down, the music stopped, and you thought, and then you jumped to, what do I really want to do? Well, okay, the water doesn't slow down all of a sudden normally, and the music, right? And that's an interesting place you jumped. To me, that's you know, I think that's very cool. I think
Yeah.
for me, it feels like part of when Dave was saying, you know, were you observing you? Well, more like what kind of you're translating to me is that your soul and you are right next to each other, you know, maybe like two instead of two shirts, right? Like this connected. And yeah,
Mhm.
watching this whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I can envision like maybe your soul's going, well, you know, Jeannie, look, go like this over the water, and you can go, you know, it turns into glacier, you know, right?
Right.
And you're playing with these kinds of things. That's
Yeah. It feels like it was some
Oh,
kind of
sweet.
like a power surge, but an energy surge through the matrix or through this reality, this hologram or what have you. And so um it was almost like it was having them happen at the same time, obviously being interconnected. um Feels like it was some anesthesia wearing off or something, and you were just, you know,
Well,
waking back up to what's really, you know, incrementally possible with a quantum leap to what the rules that we have been operating by, you know. And then
well,
you're all of a sudden, you know, your mind, and I think what you're saying, BZ, that what she went to next, instead of being in fear or being, but felt, seems naturally that she went to, okay, well, a whole, you know, smorgasbord of possibilities and excitement. That seems cool. And an important, again,
Yeah.
like you're saying, a marker. Like, here's where we tested her, and she did great, and she's
Yeah.
ready. So
Well, and as soon as it happened, like the first thing I thought of when it happened, I thought, wow, that's weird. They both happened at the same time. That was weird. What is that? Is a glitch in the matrix? And then after I had my, well, what do you want to do? You can do anything. Anything's possible. I thought after I went through that whole thing, I thought, gosh, I wish I could remember what I was thinking about when it happened, because I feel like when you said the power surge thing, that kind of stuff happened too, where
Yeah.
I've been having a thought about, once again, the language, the expansive, and
Mhm.
like the light bulb will dim. Like I'd be talking to my dad who's passed away, and the
Mhm.
light bulb will dim. So things like that have happened before, but not two things like water and
Right.
electricity.
Right.
Flow
Very
and current,
Yep.
right? Flow and current. Your currents, the currency of you and your energy, vibrational flow and current. Yeah, see, this is the thing to play with all the time, and then create and do all the stuff, that we want to do, that is helpful for others or helpful for ourselves. Or that's the other thing when I said, I think it was yesterday, that I'm changing everything, but everyone is changing everything. Some just don't know that they're doing it yet, because everything is changing. So all the systems and structures are changing. So we're all going to have to step in and choose how we want to make those changes individually, small collectively, big collectively, off planet collectively, all that kind of stuff. And this is the moment now when they are changing.
Have you noticed, like with people around you, because I've been so intentional about noticing my vibrational set point in a day, it's really clear to me when I see someone else, some people that are very near and dear to my heart are experiencing a lot of crud, and it's like the worse it gets, the worse it gets. And when you get to a place where you're so beat down and downtrodden and there's so much trauma and drama, it's like really difficult seemingly to get out of that. But it's possible. But like, I just know I've witnessed somebody in that, and seen these things happening, and I think, oh my God, if you could just wake up tomorrow morning with a fresh start, just wake up in the morning and try and find something that you can appreciate, just something that's easy for you to love, and hold on to that, and just be with that thing that you love and appreciate, and just let that feeling of appreciation just wash over you, and just let yourself have that space. Just relax and just forget about everything else in that moment, and just focus on that, and then get up and go through your day and see how, notice the little things, you know, and appreciating the little things. And like, the more you're able to do that, the more there is to appreciate. It's like getting out of bed on the right side. You get off on the right side of the bed, you have a good day, you get off on the wrong side of the bed, all grumpy, you stub your toe, you wreck your car, it's like, you get up, you get yourself in that good place, and notice what's going on, and stay in that place. And so I've
It's
seen people
crowning,
around me.
right?
What?
I said, well,
What'd you say?
what you're describing seems to me like they're crowning. In other words, if you're giving birth, so I know there's two of us on the call who've done that in this embodiment, right? So when you get to that, the doctor says you have to push, and you're like, excuse me, okay, but the or this, if you look at a super close up photograph of seeds in a planting, and if you look, and it doesn't even have to be very much time lapse, you see that the soil is flat, and then it has, like, you can see bumps, and then it crowns. The seed that new shoot, that new thing is. And so what you just described, the video that came in, is that all of these other beings who, well, all of us, full stop, and then you can look at differential points with all these other beings where they're crowning, so they're reaching their precipice, could things and finally the them that is truly them will break the surface of that inertia or whatever you would use to describe it, and crown through the construct, the false construct. They may be like a young tender seedling. They may be, have to get used to the wind and all the elements, right? So all what's going, whoa, hey, something's completely different than I thought, right? But that's what it's the birthing process of coming out of the old and into the new. Except it's really tangible. It's not metaphoric. It's not, an intellectual exercise. It's actually happening right this minute. Very.
And you know how exciting that is when, when you're buried in the dark, you can't, you're like pressed on all sides. And when you finally come out into the open air, and how refreshing that is, how exciting that is, what potential you have, how big and brilliant you can grow.
Yeah. And I think just like a baby in the womb, each of us, whether some of us have touched it or touching it, or, have the thought awareness to start to touch it, and some not at all, but it's innate within us. So we're in the body, being born in the body, as we break through the chaotic membrane or the storyline membrane or whatever, you use as the frame of reference. It's beautiful, actually. It's quite beautiful. Yeah, it's got its moments of terror, but hey.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. No.
I found that the terror wakes me up, makes me take a deeper breath.
Right.
That is so important. Breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe. I mean, that's something that, like, before, well, a few years back when I was at work, for example, in a chaotic situation, and there's no escaping it. You have to be there in that moment, dealing with all that stress and pressure. And it's like, the one thing that saved me in those moments was I'm not kidding.
Right. No, I got it.
Breathe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which again, that feels like what you were talking about earlier about when everything around you slows down, and it seems, of course, it's almost like a regression. You go back to what is something so basic. It's so basic that we've forgotten that we're doing it every second of every day in our entire lives, so it's
Right.
interesting that we would revert back to help ground us and center us and bring it all back in when everything else around you is, wide open.
Yeah.
To center yourself. So it seems
Step out of the
like,
tornado.
again, it's like, again, of course that's
Yeah.
how it would work. Obviously, yeah.
Well, we're miraculous. Thank you
Yep.
guys for coming to play on the porch. I love it. And
Cool.
It was fun.
April, we're going to do some same thing. For the second Thursday of the month and the fourth Tuesday is the plan. We'll see. That's the day I leave, so we'll see how that goes. It may just be I'll learn to use it on the phone. or maybe there'll be non-locals, and we'll have one heck of a porch hangout.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Cool. Sounds good.
Thanks for coming. Have a good
Yep.
night, you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
love you too. Bye.